Greetings, this is Dr. Welch. This is tape 6, and we're talking more about tort law that we didn't finish in prior tapes. I want to say on negligence that negligence can be an omission to act when you're under a duty to act. If you're watching the Super Bowl and your husband is starting to choke on a piece of steak, you can't say, hey, wait a minute, I've got to watch the game. You have a special relationship and you have a duty. You cannot omit that duty to go to his aid and help him from choking. So negligence can be an omission to do what a reasonable person would do. Also, when we talked earlier about the torts of battery, assault, we can talk about substantial certainty. If a person does not intend to hit someone, but there is a substantial certainty that you will hit someone, that will satisfy the intent requirement. For example, if at the time of the fair I throw a rock into a crowded tent and I really, really hope that I don't hit someone, well, it is substantially certain that I will hit someone, and that will transfer the intent. That will be the satisfactory intent. So those are some details that we didn't cover on prior tapes. Also, when looking at the torts, there are in the intentional tort area various defenses. For example, if someone is about to touch you, then that might be a battery. However, a defense would be consent, and that would be an excuse. If your boyfriend kisses you, well, that's consent. That would not be a battery. And then there's necessity. Suppose you're being chased by a tiger and you have to break through the neighbor's fence to escape the tiger. Well, you can do that because of a necessity. If it is a public necessity, then there's no cost. If it's a private necessity, then you're going to have to pay the cost. Another defense in intentional torts is self-defense. And if someone knocks at your door and says your money or your life, well, at that point you can have them in your home, and if you reasonably believe that they're about to shoot you or something, then you can shoot in self-defense. And also defense of others. You step into the shoes of the other person, and if you want to defend the other person, you can use whatever defense or amount of force that they could have used. Now, when we look also at defense of others, it might be a mistake. Suppose that you are watching a Romeo and Juliet play, and you really think that someone is going to kill someone, and it's real, you didn't know it was a play practice, well, then you would have been mistaken, but you would have that as a defense. So, and then in property torts, sometime there's vicarious liability where a common carrier or an innkeeper, they have to come to the aid of another. Now, also, we talked about defamation, and if it is a public figure and you cannot print something if you know it's false, if they're a public figure, because that would be malice. If you know it's false and you print it anyway, and they're a public figure, then you can be liable for defamation. That comes up in the political area sometimes. Now, looking at defamation, this is a reputation tort. That's a communication to a third person of a false statement. And if it's written, it's called libel. If it's spoken, is slander. Truth is always a defense. And also there's the tort of fraud. Fraud is making a false representation by one party with an intention to induce another party into an act of commission or omission owing to which the later party suffers a damage. So, and then there's also tortious interference, one person intentionally damaging the plaintiff's contractual or other business relationship. Nuisance is the denial of the quiet enjoyment to the owners of real property, and that is a tort. So also we need to be aware of products liability, that strict liability. When a seller or a manufacturer, when they release a product in a defective condition, then there may be liability. So that is important. And then the damages are recovered based on the various jurisdictions. And the damages can include personal injury and economic loss. So those are some aspects of tort that we didn't finish, and I wanted to wind down with those. And then the next tape will be some questions in which you will have an opportunity to practice the tort principles to make sure that you have learned them. So we'll conclude the tape right now at this point.